Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with David Grossman, the president of Renue Systems, the deep cleaning experts. At Renue, they have deep cleaned and disinfected thousands of properties across the United States and around the world since their founding in 1991. We're going to talk to David about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with David Grossman, the president of Renue Systems, the deep cleaning experts. And at Renue, they have deep cleaned and disinfected thousands of properties across the United States and around the world since their founding in 1991. Hi, David. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Great. It's good to be here, Marty. I am very well, thank you. Hope you are well, and it's good to speak with everybody.
Thank you, David. This is my pleasure. So we always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, David?
Simple question. You think I would have a simple answer, but sometimes I need to pause. I travel extensively, but today I'm in New York City.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, that's great. Okay, because I'm originally from New York, so that's terrific. And, you know, when I was looking at Renue, David, I didn't realize, I mean, God, you guys go back all the way to 1991. So you have a long history. Maybe we could talk a little bit about, you know, the history and some of the highlights over the last, 30-plus years.
Absolutely. Our company was started, as you mentioned, 1991 by a young individual. He was 21 at the time who taught himself how to clean carpets for homes and restaurants and, frankly, whoever would pay him to do it. And he would do the work during the day and then try to do some sales at nighttime but saw even back then how competitive the cleaning business is, and it's only gotten more so. So even though he was a young person, he had the foresight to focus and picked up a small hotel as a new customer, and kind of the light bulb went off. And ever since then, we've been highly focused on the hospitality industry. So we provide them with a lot of services, and we think this focus of helping this one customer base who we've gotten to know well and designed our operations around has really given us a big edge.
Yeah. The hotels, I mean, are so important too, David. We, this summer we stayed at one of the big chains in Virginia Beach, and what we were surprised about it, how do they keep the floors so clean? But that's important, particularly, I mean, the hotel is like right on the beach, and you say, oh my God, how do they do this? But it's so important to the hospitality industry, isn't it? Because cleanliness.
It sure is, and if you look at things like TripAdvisor, if you're going to book your hotel room, maybe you looked at that beforehand, or a lot of people do. And one of the big criteria, and the thing that people write a lot about, is the cleanliness of the property, because that's one of the first things and most visible things you'll find. So it's important, and the hotels know that. Their studies show that cleanliness is a big factor into the popularity and hence the revenue and profitability of their property.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how did you join Renue? Like, how did you become familiar with the brand, David, and then why did you join?
I joined for the same reason that many of our franchisees joined. I was in corporate America. I actually worked in finance and was laid off 3 times by various banks, and all 3 times they said, oh, not you, but we just have to do it. So I was just getting tired of the up and down, and it was difficult to have a career. So at the end of the day, I was looking for something a lot more stable, and this opportunity came to me through a broker that I'd been talking to, and I didn't know anything about cleaning. I didn't know much about hotels other than being a guest many times, but it's a fairly simple business to understand, difficult to excel at, but easy to understand. And I thought, hey, this could be kind of interesting, and learn more about it. And even though no one on the street would know who we are, I soon learned that the good news is our customers and addressable market know who we are very well. So that and the fact that existing management was still there, who I got along with very well, I thought was very competent, importantly. So we kind of put our heads together after I was able to join and purchase the company, and we put our heads down and got to work helping our franchisees succeed.
And I know you probably get this question all the time, David, because you mentioned, so it is a highly competitive industry. So the question comes is, what makes Renue different from everyone else that's out there?
Yeah, a lot of it is the focus. That's a key part of it. I know that sounds simple, but we've designed, again, our processes, our chemicals around the hotel industry. And also, we've developed a very good reputation to the point that we are preferred vendor with lots of the big hotel chains like Marriott and Hilton and Hyatt and Intercontinental, Best Western, and others. So that gives us a very big edge because these brands trust us, and we've built up that trust over a number of years, and that's not something we take lightly. We make sure that we provide them good service, but in return, we get a lot of work to these hotels. So the focus is really key on the operations side, on the sales and marketing side. That's critical. And then another component, which again sounds simple, but really isn't, is the execution. We're very good at customer service, and running a service-based business is challenging. I probably didn't appreciate how challenging it was when I joined it, but it is critical, and we do our best to make our customers happy.
Sounds like you've really excelled too. I mean, this is a relationship business, isn't it, David?
Absolutely. That's key right there, is the relationship.
Yeah. So if you were at, like, let's say you were exhibiting at a franchise show, David, and you're at your booth, and of course, a lot of people come up to the booth, and it's always a typical question is, so what do you do? How do you typically describe the Renue franchise to, let's say, a prospective franchisee?
Yeah, that's an important question. And the best answer I would say for that, Marty, is that we are a very unique franchise company, probably something you never thought about, but we provide highly specialized services to the hospitality industry. We're the leader in this niche that we created, and and we're the type of business that is needed and increasingly needed by hotels. And importantly, we give out very large territories to our franchisees. We're looking for a small number of high-quality individuals or small teams who can have a wide variety of backgrounds, but if we think there's a good fit, we will train them and provide them a lot of support, not just on day one, but really throughout the entire time with us. It's critical as our franchisee partners. We really view as partners. And so I think between a very specialized business that is something that we provide a lot of time teaching, and the large territories and ongoing support, that's something that resonates a lot with many of our folks that are looking to join us.
And it's interesting as we're talking about this too, David, because like we were just, mentioning relationships. So not even just relationships with your clients, but relationships with your franchisees is what you're saying too, is very important.
Yeah, that's a good observation. But we view that both of those, the franchisee partners and our customers, is equally important.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So here's a tough question for you. I know to narrow it down to one single answer might be tough, David, but what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since joining Renue, assuming that you probably have 1,000 stories you and I can go back and forth with, but does anything stand out over your time with Renue?
Yeah, you certainly see a lot of things that happen inside hotels.
Yeah.
But I will just say at a broader level, the COVID, and we looking back at it, it was certainly challenging the first few months, but we made through it. Our franchisees really came through very well, and we are a much stronger company coming out of it for a number of reasons. The competitive landscapes even become more favorable. We've solidified our relationships with our big hotel brands, and cleaning's become more important. So we actually came out a much better company. Operationally, I think we were always well run, but I think we've gotten better. So while COVID, the first few months, I remember very well that first day when we realized it, when we mobilized all of our franchisees on a bunch of phone calls and really tried to help guide it. Very scary. But we got through it, and we came out, even within a few months, we were starting to be on the mend, and we came out a lot stronger company.
Yeah, I would imagine the demand, and I hate to use the word, COVID as an opportunity, but the demand for your service had to increase, right, David? It just seems like, we're still, even to this day, we're still talking about COVID, right? So, your service just seems to be even more important today than it was if you go back 4 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And a byproduct of COVID, it wasn't the only cause of COVID wasn't the only cause, but a byproduct is the labor issue. And so because labor is tight now, and I think will continue for a number of years, we're seeing a lot more outsourcing. So companies, some of the hotels that we had not won over yet, now are outsourcing more, and we started to pick them up as new customers. So I think, again, this trend is only going to continue, and we're benefiting from it.
That's wonderful. What types of characteristics, when you're meeting with someone, David, as you said, you're traveling all over the country, and I imagine that sometimes you're meeting with prospective franchisees. What characteristics or traits are important to you before taking on a new franchisee to Renue?
Sure. Yeah, and you did mention I travel a lot in the U.S., but also internationally, because we now are in a number of U.S. cities and several other countries, and international growth is also important for us.
Wow.
But as far as the characteristics, again, the background can vary, and it does vary, and we find that's the two key things are skill set and mindset. on our end. And skill set is just someone who can manage a small team of workers. Again, they don't have to have experience in cleaning, but just be able to manage it. They're going to want to learn how to do the cleaning first couple months, get their hands dirty, but then more importantly, oversee the team and focus increasingly on building and managing those relationships. So you mentioned it's a relationship business, and it is. And doing that with our support. So we open up a lot of doors and provide a lot of ongoing support. So we're not looking for people to cold call, but it's really relationship building. So the components on the skill set side are managing a small team, but really focusing a lot on those relationships. And then, on the mindset is we're looking for people that fit well with our culture, and we are a very collaborative group, and we like to hit the ground running. We're kind of action-oriented, but very collaborative. So if they want someone, a partner, a franchisor partner who's really going to provide a lot of ongoing support and really try to view it as a team environment, then those people are a good fit. So obviously there's more detail, but those are kind of the high level of some of the things that we look for in our franchisee partners, which could be an individual, could be a spouse together, husband-wife team, or two partners, could be two business partners. So we're a wide variety of it, and any of those situations configurations can work fine and do work fine for us.
That's terrific. You know this better than I do, David, but I mean, is there an advantage to, it seems like a lot of the, the hotels, the big chains that you mentioned, the Hyatts, the Hiltons, it seems like they do use or they outsource their service as opposed to doing it in-house, having people clean the hotel as an employee. I mean, so are there, I imagine there would be advantages to using a service like Renue, using your service versus having employees work for the hotel and clean the hotel. Are there studies or advantages to doing that? I imagine the franchisees work harder because they want the business, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. And I should point out the type of services we do is not the everyday housekeeping, making beds and so forth, and changing sheets, nor is it the nightly janitorial mopping and vacuuming, but it's really what we call it deep cleaning, which happens periodically several times a year, where we'll bring in our well-trained team of technicians with our special equipment and processes. So you're right in that for a few reasons we're finding, and our customers are finding increasingly it makes sense to outsource, is that this is not a service that's typically done every day. So it's not like you'll have, the hotel will have a couple people doing it, devoted to it. It's more like they do it off the corner of their desk when they have the opportunity. So they often fall behind. They often don't have the right equipment, chemical, and training. And even if they do in some cases, and I don't say this disrespectfully to our customers, but this is not something they do every day, is that they typically find that they're not able to manage the quality or the quantity. They can't get it all done in time, and they just don't have the results. And then some of the services that we offer are fairly unique, like we'll clean chandeliers and escalators and trash chutes. These are some processes that we've developed that are fairly unusual. A lot of what we do is carpet cleaning, where we'll get stains out, or we'll restore and polish marble, or get the odors out when a guest brings a pet in. Things that are fairly, we see often, challenging, and then we have a number of other services that are also challenging and fairly unusual.
That's great. How does the training work, David, once you decide, you like them, they like you, and they want to come on board as a franchisee? Do they come out to like a corporate headquarters? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, our company is based outside of Chicago, so we have our initial training is about 10 days in our home office. It's not really a home office, but we call it home for our franchisees. They come there for 10 days. Most of the training is actually done by some at the venue of some of our customers in Chicagoland. So we'll get on the ground training, and then some of it is also done in our home office. A lot of it will be on operational, providing instruction and hands-on experience as to how to do the variety of services. but it's also then we'll go into a lot on the sales side and business building side. And our franchisees can start out with a very small team, 1, maybe 2 technicians that they've hired, and we can help them try to find the right people.
Right.
And they can start small, and then they'll go through the training as well. And over time, they'll grow with the team. But you never need a huge team, which is one of the beauties of our businesses, is that we found a way of building a business where we can highly utilize our employees, keep them busy, but not have to build a very large team. So it's easier to manage and less to have to deal with HR issues, more to deal with trying to grow the business. So that's the initial training, the 10 days in Chicagoland, and then there's a lot of ongoing remote and on-site support operationally, and also importantly on the sales side, where we really try to help them grow the business.
That's wonderful. I'm trying to think of what a typical day would be like for your franchisees, David. I imagine there's a little bit of a sales element to it, for your franchisees, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Like, what is a typical day like for a franchisee to renew?
Yeah, it's a good question. So after the first few months, when things start to become more of a kind of a steady system, what it should be, or often is that our franchisee owner may stop at the hotel where one or more of their teams are working, just to check in. Importantly, say hello to the customer, maybe talk about other work we can do for them, and then they will often spend the rest of the day visiting other hotels in the area, or some days they may be working at their home office, trying to win over other customers through writing the proposals and talking to customers using our CRM system, where they'll have the contacts of all the people. So a lot of it, to your point, is on sales, of building and managing those relationships. Some of it's operations, and some of it is administrative. If I had to break it down, it's about 30% on operations, overseeing the team and hiring when needed, about 10% on administration, so that leaves a little bit more than half on sales. And again, doing that with our support. They're not kind of on an island. Our franchisees are not. They're in fairly good contact and frequent contact with our operational and sales and business building team.
Right. And the sales is not like you have to be an exceptional sales, like a telemarketer or a cold caller. This is, as you said, it's a pretty simple service at the end of the day, David. And I'm sure your team can teach people to actually sell the service, couldn't you?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because our franchisees, very few of them come from a traditional sales background. It's just people that are people and like to talk to other people, are not hesitant to do it, and then we can provide a lot of that support. So that's a lot of what it is. We're not looking for slick salespeople. We're looking for people that are trustworthy, reliable, kind of will be respected by their customers, who are really interested in working with us to kind of as a partnership to really try to help them, not just on one transaction be done, but build a long-term relationship, so we can start to help them, say, clean their carpets, and then they like the results. We'll start to do their tile and grout and keep growing from there.
That's great. When I have someone on yourself on the show, with so much experience, David, because you've been doing this such a long time now, I always like to ask, because our listeners are, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them are kind of even new to franchising. They know they're thinking about getting involved in franchising, but they find it's a little bit overwhelming. I think I read recently there's something like, they said there's like 4,000 different systems now in the United States, which is a lot. And so a lot of them, I think, are overwhelmed in the beginning, like, oh my God, where do I even begin? From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Yeah, I would say, if I had to boil it down to, say, 3 things, I would say that, first of all, you can get help. There are a number of franchise consultants or brokers. You can find them online. There's no cost to you as a prospect. They'll be compensated if you actually move forward with a franchise, paid by the franchisor typically. So no cost, and there are lots of people there, and they will help guide you as to what through the process, and also starting with what may be a good franchise for you. Which brings me to the second point, is the fit. And here, Marty, you mentioned that there's a huge number of brands out there that are franchised.
Yeah. Right.
But we like Renue, but I realize Renue is not for everyone. Right. So I think people need to understand, first of all, geography. Is it available in their area? Cost, is it the right cost, even though there's a lot of bank financing available? You have to make sure that sort of fits with your financial situation. Sure. The business model, some people, there's a wide variety, whether it's a restaurant that you're owning and operating, or a service business like ours, and everything in between. What's the day-to-day lifestyle? You asked that question earlier. That's clearly an element. Timing to open. Some businesses, like restaurants or retail outlets, could take well over a year because you have to find a store and get up and running. Others, like ours, we can be up and running in a matter of weeks because it's a service-based business. And probably the last part of that is the personality or the culture of the company and the fit with the franchisor. So you're going to be working closely with the franchisor in some situations, maybe not, but hopefully you will be. And getting along with them and buying into their culture is critical. So I said getting help, fit, and the last thing is do your homework. There's a lot of the franchise broker can help you, but a lot of it is getting to know the franchisor, visiting them, importantly, talking or meeting with many of the other franchisees on a one-on-one basis, so you can ask them a lot of questions, how happy they are, day in the life. I think that's key. And if a franchisor is resistant to you doing your homework, talking to franchisees, and spending the time you need to do it, then that may be a red flag.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, David. And I read in an interview, I think it might have even been on your LinkedIn page, but you're even saying, that this may not be the most, sexiest business in the world, but nevertheless, it could be a really good fit, right? Because franchising is really a means to an end, isn't it? It's what are you trying to accomplish? How does this help you reach your goals? And I think using a franchise broker, you said getting help, a lot of people out there, experts, can, kind of introduce this industry to a lot of people who may have not even considered it initially. That's
absolutely right. I, like myself, and I think every one of our franchisees, except one of them who happened to be a customer and liked what we did, and joined us. But otherwise, no one knew who we were. No one probably, I think very few, if any, kind of even thought, a specialized cleaning company for hotels, that even existed. So it was, we're below the radar, and you're right, cleaning is often viewed as not sexy, but that's fine. We're not for everyone. But a lot of our franchisees join us because they like the fact that it's a needed business. We provide a lot of support. It's highly specialized. And it's growing in a lot of areas, and they don't care so much that it's not the most exciting thing to talk about at a cocktail party.
Yeah, well said. So as the president, I could ask you the last question, David, is, where do you see Renue, if you can look into a crystal ball, whether that crystal ball is 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, where do you see Renue?
I see it continuing on the same path we're doing now. We've been fortunate to have some nice growth, and the two key components, and where I and the management team focuses on, is geographic growth. We want to continue to fill out the rest of the U.S. with good quality franchisees, increasingly grow international. But the other focus is equally important, which is same store, helping our franchisees grow. And we spend a lot of time working with our franchisees so that after 3 or 4 or 5 years with us, they're not tapped out on growth. A lot of that comes down to the fact territory, so there's always more customers, more services to existing customers. So we really want to focus on same-store growth and geographic expansion. And the more geographic expansion, and our franchisees want us to continue to grow geographically, the more value we can bring to our big customers, these big international customers like Marriott, which helps us then increase the value of our brand. So the two of them go together, helping our existing franchisees and trying to bring in good quality additional ones. And if we keep doing that and providing good quality service to our franchisees and to our customers, I do believe we'll continue to have some good success.
That's wonderful. What's the best way, David, for our listeners to get more information on Renue? Of course, you have the service and the franchise opportunity. Are there any websites you can kind of direct them to?
Yeah, I think the best would just to go to our homepage, which is renuesystems.com, and that's spelled RENUE Systems. Again, RENUE Systems with an S at the end.com. And there's lots of information both for customers, but there's also a lot of information for prospective franchisees.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, David, and I'd already like to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I love this industry and I love your model. So I would love to have you back in the future.
It would be my pleasure, Marty. Thank you very much, and everyone for listening.
You're most welcome, David. It's great to have you on the show. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we'll be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. Or you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews now over 8 years and over 400 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today you get to hear from Chris Simic, who is the founder of FranchiseTeacher.com, and Chris has over 30 years of business and franchise experience as an independent business owner, a franchisee, and a franchisor. And Chris said something very profound that we haven't heard on our show in over 8 years. He mentioned that you have to almost work harder to fail at franchising than to succeed in franchising, and he explains why.
Most people, about 90% I think I've seen, buy a business other than they first looked at.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's a big number too, isn't it, Chris? You know that most people, they go in with these certain expectations and they come out with something different. And I find that fascinating.
I absolutely. It never ceases to astound me, but I think that speaks to the value of franchising as a business model and a business method, because people don't have to be in something just because they know it. And quite candidly, sometimes getting involved in a business that you would rather do, that you were not involved in, allows you the luxury of taking a new career path and to develop something you never would have had the opportunity to had it not been, systematized and prioritized for you. In franchising, it's said that you have to really almost work harder to fail than to succeed, because if you have a good franchise system, if you follow directions, you have to almost purposely not follow them to not do well.
That's true. That's fantastic. We have this great quotes in franchising. I think we're going to put that one in there, Chris. I think that's very original, and it's very true. What advice would you give to our listeners? We find that most of them, they're just beginning their search to buy a franchise, Chris, and we find that, most of them just simply, they don't even know where to begin, like you were saying. What advice would you give to them?
I do, when I speak to people looking at franchise, I give them 3 different pieces of advice. One, make sure you're looking for a business for the right reason. Now, a lot of people have things happen in their life. They lose a job or something happens, and they react and maybe say, well, okay, maybe I'll go buy a business. That may not be the reason to do it versus having the luxurious selectivity that here's my opportunity that was created by some adversity. Second thing is that they have to make sure that they are able to be franchisees. That not everybody is designed to be able to follow the systems, procedures, and the processes it takes to be a successful franchise owner. And then I tell them quite candidly is pick a couple of the industries and the price ranges that may have interest to you, and then kind of pin down from there, either using the resources of a consultant or a broker or a team member, or on their own. Either way, but I think that if they take their time, follow the steps, and do it for the right reasons, they'll be on a much smoother pathway to success in owning their own business.
That's well said. What's in the future then for Franchise Teacher, Chris? I mean, where do you see the company 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well, Marty, we've been extremely fortunate and blessed that the business has been around, through Century Franchise Group for many years. And our new franchiseteacher.com has taken off. We're representing right now, 7 plus brands. I think in 5 years, our focus will really be even more fine-tuned as the consumer or the prospective business owner is looking for more and more specific information. Breaking down to teach, coach, consult, and advise, I think will be a way for us to assist people in what they need. People again don't know what they don't know, but right. I think the information overload sometimes discourages people too early. They say, this is too much for me to process. But if we can break it down into bite-sized pieces, I think more and more people, especially the younger generation, who are looking for the advice and the information they want when they want it, I think is going to do nothing more than continue. Then our next business venture, which launches at the end of this year, is looking to capture all the different franchise brands around the world and put them into one place. So we're looking forward to a future. And franchising is going nowhere but growing. As you said for a long time too, the number of franchise opportunities, and the world's getting to be a smaller place. I think you're going to find a lot of opportunities coming in and going out of different marketplaces in different countries, accessible to more people.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Chris, for our listeners to get more information on franchiseteacher.com? Obviously, franchiseteacher.com, but any numbers you'd like them to call or email addresses?
Well, actually, we appreciate www.franchiseteacher.com. And my business partner, Dave, and I offer them the free 1-hour consultation. Fill out the form and take advantage of it.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Chris, for finally coming on the show. I've been following your career for a long time now, and I have just been very impressed with everything that you've done, So when I saw this, I mentioned to you, we don't typically call people to come on the show, but I had to have you specifically on the show. So it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today.
Marty, ditto, and again, congratulations on your PhD doctorate. I have read your thesis, and I would recommend it reading if people can get through
that's fantastic.
The information.
I really appreciate that you read it, too, because that's an honor coming from you, so that's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again, Chris.
Thank
you. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.